Okay, so I get a lot of questions about relationship and being authentic. And sometimes the questions are in the context of, well, if I'm not just being my whole self and speaking as my whole self all the time, am I not being authentic? Here's the thing. Relationships are hard. And for us to expect them not to be, and for it not to be work, at this point anyway, or for it not to be challenging, we're not quite there yet where everything's easy breezy. Now, some people have those paths. People have all different paths, in their spiritual contract. Like people who meet in high school and get married and fall in love and they're together forever. That's like 1%, That is not the norm to put that in your contract and you're with one person your entire life. The reason is people want to experience different things, different people, different places, different challenges. That easy breezy is this percent of soul contracts. Maybe 15% is easy breezy. That leaves 85% of trauma and challenges and communication challenges and being on the same wavelength challenges. See, when people are not fully healed and they date their unhealed pain. They also date the love that they feel they deserve. So if a relationship reflects back to you, someone like a narcissist, for example, that tells the empath several things. That first, they need to have stronger boundaries. They also need to not let red flags go by the wayside and say, well, no one else is going to love this person. They're not going to put up with that. No, they won't. And why should you? Now, narcissism is a spectrum and it's a whole different animal in and of itself with dating and marriages and things. It's also reflective of an abandonment and betrayal wound from childhood. That one parent, one of the people that raised you or raised this person, didn't have an emotional connection and wanted one to the person. Parent, grandparent, aunt, uncle, whoever, raised them. There was no validation. It's like the drama took precedence in the house over the person's identity growing. Their voice was discounted, like, be quiet, be small, don't take up too much space, things like that, contract your energy. And then people end up going out, into adulthood and they start to date. So they date coming from that place of lack or a place of self-abandonment, self-betrayal, because they felt abandoned, felt betrayed, which is the worst wound to the heart that takes a lot of deep healing. And the only way to heal it is to stop abandoning yourself, stop betraying yourself. And you betray yourself by hanging out with toxic people who are not good for you. And you abandon yourself by abandoning your own needs and not giving yourself what you think the narcissist is giving you. That's the only way to heal it. You have to show up for yourself and don't betray yourself. That's it. And you can do that in a relationship. See, people have narcissistic people. And it's not just intimate relationships, marriages, dating. It can be friends, it can be coworkers, it can be bosses, it can be, And if you look at, if your voice isn't being validated, your opinions aren't being validated, recognized, honored, there aren't agreements, it's more of a dictatorship, that's off balance. Because even bosses and employees should not be a dictatorship. It should be based on agreements and mutual respect and honor for what each provides. Same thing with friendships. Another two important things for anything to stick, and this is the main part of the message. In any relationship at all, doesn't matter what it is, job, friendship, anything, partnership, you have to be yourself and you have to speak as yourself. Because if you have to hold up any type of persona, it's going to crumble. At some point, you're going to get tired of it because people retreat back to their comfort zone. They retreat back to where they're comfortable. Yeah, they can shift and grow and change, but they're going to go back to what makes them comfortable. And if they're not being themselves, like a true facade they have to hold up, it's a matter of time. Now, this is the part of the message I want to get. People will say, am I not being authentic if I'm not just speaking as myself all the time and just saying all the things and just, out with all the things? That's not authentic. That's oversharing. And it's not fair to the person you're with in the relationship to bombard them with, this is me. Because you'll notice in friendship, in a parent-child relationship, in all these different relationships, work relationship, you can't do that because it's not really considerate of the other person. There's someone on the other side of this equation that you're speaking to who has to receive whatever it is you're telling them. And if it's way too much, and they're bombarded, or it's more than they can emotionally handle, mentally handle. See, the difference, you can be authentic, but I think sometimes you have to choose kind. If you want to come through like a wrecking ball, you might notice that you're not going to have good relationships because you're the only one you're kind of concerned with. And nobody wants to be on the receiving end of someone who comes in like that. People have a lot of stress, a lot of PTSD, a lot of, their own shit on their mind, even in a partnership or friendship or whatever. And to come in like, this is me, love it or leave it. They're going to leave it, and they're not going to honor it. Because if you're an empath, you would understand what that feels like if that was you and you're on the receiving end of that. Now with relationships, only and ever choose empaths, period. And you make sure that that's who you're choosing. And if you notice you're attracting something else to reflect back to abandonment and betrayal, it's potentially that you just chose a narcissist, that's a no. That's a reflection back to you saying, okay, I need to be better to myself. And you can do that in, say, if you're in a long-term marriage, you can clean up your energy, clean up yourself while you're in something and not make any decisions and let things just fall where they need to go. So there's being authentic and there's being kind. You can be yourself, but I think this is me, deal with it. That's not authentic. That's frankly rude. And especially like in the beginning, even all the way through, people can't handle that, especially right now. There's way too much they've been through. A lot of people are commitment shy. A lot of people are like, well, I don't want all that. I can barely handle me. So in any relationship, like, you wouldn't treat your kids that way. You wouldn't treat your friends that way. You wouldn't treat whoever you care about or honor or respect. You wouldn't treat them that way. So why would you treat a partner like that? You would be kind and you would read your audience. Even in the closest partnership, you would read your audience. Now you want to be yourself. That's different. You're not coming from a place of resistance like it's rebellion. You're just being yourself. You're just being who you are. And you can alter conversations. May not resonate with everybody, but you can alter because you're considering your audience. And that shifts and changes depending on who it is. But even with your partner, like, don't be nicer to a stranger than you would your own partner. And if you were talking to a stranger that you liked, you wouldn't blurt out all kinds of crap like, love it or leave it, baby, because they're going to leave it. And if you think of being on the receiving end of these things as an empath, empaths put themselves in people's positions, like, how would I feel if I had to hear that? So you shouldn't be saying things you don't want to hear. If you don't want to hear it, other people don't either. So make sure that if there's an expression, you taste the words coming out of your mouth first. Now, it's not perfect, okay? None of this is perfect. That's why 85% are working on it, because there's so much going on and so much people have been through. It's not perfection, it's practice. And you may have to practice different areas. People have things in their natal chart that it's a lifelong challenge. So they spend their life trying to do higher and better, in one area or a lot of areas. And also, people don't want all the information at once if you're dating or whatever. That's like all the food you are going to eat in your entire life from the grocery store or the farm, it's all going to be put in your kitchen today. That's how it feels to overshare to the person hearing it. We're not going to do meals for today, stuff for today, maybe for the week. All the food in your life planted right in your kitchen right now, just dropped right in the middle of your kitchen. That's how that feels. A lot of people are high functioning autism, they're ADHD. I know, you got to title them something. Higher awareness, sensitive. We're called sensitives. So relationships, especially starting, is going to be a get to know. It's going to be agreements. It's going to be enjoying someone's company for that day. And just learn about each other. And it's built on honor and agreements and understandings, goals. And you have to come up together. So you stay on the same wavelength. But it's honoring the other person, and maybe they can't handle, all that kind of stuff. Even if you've been married for a long time, even if you've, been together a long time, it's being kind. And sometimes you have to choose kind over authentic. You do. It doesn't mean you're not being yourself and you're living a lie. It means that there's someone on the other end of this that you're reading the room. Maybe they just can't handle, all of you. That's why 20%, people, the most they can provide for you is 80%. And you don't leave someone because you don't get the 20. The 20 is the friends, it's journaling, it's meditation, it's no one's going to provide 100%. nobody can. So the 20% is you going to classes, you learning, it's therapy, it's whatever. You get it somewhere else. So I hope that helps.